Welcome to the Down South Hunting Podcast presented by OnX Hunt. Tonight, we have the three amigos on the line. I'm sure if you know I'm saying amigos and I'm saying three, you know the sombrero-wearing Kyle Bennett is on the phone with us, and we have Mike the Hogman Higman. Gentlemen, it is a pleasure to be speaking with both of you tonight.
What's up? What's up?
How's it going?
Hey.
I love how my nicknames become Hogman after I went on a hog hunt with some other guys, and some other guys shot one, and I helped carry it.
Okay, so
now I'm Hogman. So
the thing is, every time I look at your name as we speak on Skype as we're podcasting, it says Higman, and I see Hogman. That's all I see, man, and that's who you are.
And now that's all I see too, Hogman.
So tell us about tonight, Mike. What do we got going on, man?
My name's not on there. What's up?
I said, tell us about tonight. What do we have going on? What's this conversation going to be about?
Guys, this is the 2018 season preview. Deer season's right around the corner. Are you guys pumped or what?
Yep.
Uh-huh.
I stay pumped.
We got Adam. How many days you got left? Not long, right?
Ooh, man, you would put me on the spot. I go on the 24th. So whatever today is, what's the day? 11th?
Like August
14th.
24th?
Whoa, today is I got 10 days.
10 days.
And I'm in a tree stand,
crazy, man.
Or in a saddle, whatever that might be, Greg Godfrey. No pressure.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a saddle.
I don't think so. I think me and the old lone wolf are going to have a date together.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you?
I've never been more excited for a deer season since probably 7 or 8 years ago.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
How do you quantify that? Like a 3?
A 3? Okay, I'm going to say when I was a 10-year-old, I was like at a 10 and like shooting over the top of the 10. Right now, I'm a 35-year-old with a lot of stuff going on. I'm probably more like hanging at a 7.5. I think it's pretty hardcore.
How about you, KB?
I'm at like a 15 out of 10. You know,
you had to do that.
Like the Hulk. You know, his secret is he stays angry. Like, I just stay pumped to go hunting all year.
Nice.
So I'm at 15.
All right. So what we're doing tonight for this preview is we're kind of going to go over what we're going to do this season, kind of talk about gear and our plans, where we're going to hunt, when we're going to hunt, what we're most excited about. And instead of us doing some monologues, because we all know if I get going, I'll take up an hour just talking about my season, we're going to interview each other. Just to kind of get a little deeper into what we're doing. So that's the plan. We're going to be interviewing our friend KB first. And you ready to go?
I'm always ready.
All right. So I guess I'm just going to kick it off. When and where is your first hunt this season?
Okay, I will be kicking off this season September 14th in Colorado, chasing elk and mule deer. I also have a deer tag, but be focusing on elk. I will be there for 10, 12 days, and then I'll have to, hang tight a few more weeks until bow season opens up on my home turf in Mississippi on October 1.
So your elk hunt, let's talk about that for a second. How many years you been elk hunting?
Okay. So I have been elk hunting. This will be my second time to ever hunt, but I tell people that. So we have a family cabin that my grandparents built 35, 40 years ago in the middle of an unnamed national forest in Colorado. That's all public land. And so I've spent my entire life going up there, spending my summers and going up there and working. And my dad's been bringing buddies and hunters up there hunting for, 35 years or so. So I used to spend all my summers up there, like prepping, like scouting for these guys, like getting ready for them to go up to hunt when I went back to school. And so I tell people, like, I know a lot about elk hunting for someone who's never been elk hunting. So last year was my first season to ever get to go. And I had an absolute blast. Did not kill anything. Got my butt kicked by the mountains, but had a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to getting back out there, putting some more miles on the boots, and chasing some bulls this September.
So if you
and probably every September from here on out until I can't do it anymore.
So if you had one piece of advice, and we're gonna transition out of elk hunting after this, but one piece of advice for a new elk hunter coming from the east to the west, what would that be?
Well, obviously since I spent so much time in the mountains before I hunted, I knew kind of what the altitude and topography was going to do. So the main thing I can tell people is conditioning, and not just conditioning your body, but trying to test out your gear as much as possible ahead of time. So that way, when you get to the mountains, there's no surprises. So, shoot your bow with your pack on, try to put a lot of miles in your boots before you hit the trail, and do all your gear prep and gear testing before you get out there so you don't have any failures. Elk hunting is hard enough. You don't need any more excuses to fail.
So what's your sleep situation on this hunt? Is this like you're staying in like a really fancy lodge or in a hotel room, or are you like staying in a tent or what?
No, I mean, it's not a fancy lodge, but it's just our family cabin that my grandparents built. I mean, it's comfortable, but it's not like a lodge. But yeah, I'm a little more spoiled than some people, who are out there, backpacking and stuff. And I still like to do that too. But for this particular hunt, this is like our family unit, so to speak, that generations of us have hunted in. So I'm basically hunting from a base camp,
so
like from the cabin. And so every day we'll drive 20 or 30 minutes away from the cabin, like deeper
Shoot
into
them right
this
from
unit.
the road.
I wish. And then we'll park somewhere and we'll hike, 3 or 4 miles in, or maybe longer than that, to where kind of we want to hunt for the day, 2 or 3 miles in, and hunt, get in some of the canyons and stuff. So, I mean, we're still getting after it, but I'm not sleeping in the dirt like some people, but I respect everybody who does.
So
I don't think you have to feel bad for that. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. And so for those guys that are sleeping in the dirt and they want to hear more about elk hunting and how to get into elk hunting, I can tell you right now, if you go back and look at the Gritty Bowman podcast, like those first few episodes, man, those were so good. Aaron Snyder,
Gritty's the man.
Yeah, those first like 20 or 30 episodes, I literally just I ate those up. So those are some really good Western hunting podcasts.
All right, so this is the Southern podcast, so I guess we got to get back into deer. Kyle, I know you're a big habitat guy. What do you got going on habitat project wise? What are your plans before the season?
So right now there's not a whole lot going on. It's mostly season prep, working on stands and the like, getting ready to plant some food plots. But we'll plant a few places for early bow season, but typically we don't plant the bulk of our acreage until like late October, November, just because of weather conditions and temperature. But I'll probably still do some TSI, some timber stand improvement, just because it's a good time of year for that. But not a whole lot going on the habitat side. Just kind of getting ready to hunt.
Do you still have stands to hang and stuff, or that's all set to go? You're just kind of waiting on the season.
So I always try to be finished with that by the end of August, and that way I can keep pressure off of my property all of September. Basically, our season opens October 1. So the past few weekends, I've actually been up there checking all our permanent stands, all the straps, all the steps, like trimming all the lanes out and making sure they're well hidden, trimming the access, cleaning all that up. So it's basically like a maintenance thing, but I always try to get it done. But then again, we while we're out doing that, we think of new places we want to hang or places where we want to move stands. So I got a couple more weekends of work to get all that done, but try to be done by the end of the month so I can let it rest for another month.
Are you guys not running trail cameras anytime past August? Or are you just leaving them out there and not going to check them until deer season?
No. I have cameras out now, and I'm starting to run my first trail cam survey of the season, which I'm basically just taking inventory of the deer we have on the property and the bucks. And I actually haven't checked any yet. I didn't run any cameras in June or July, which is kind of out of the ordinary for me, but I just didn't get any up. And so I got some up at the end of July. So I haven't checked any of those yet. So I don't know what bucks are hanging around yet, but hopefully we'll check those in another week or so.
So as far as tactics are concerned, I was thinking about the last comment you made about, every year you're thinking about new places you might want to hang tree stands. Me personally, I've got a property that I grew up on. I've hunted it for over 20 years. So it's always amazing to me when I find a new spot on a property that I've been hunting pretty much my entire life. Can you tell me about the last time you had one of those aha moments, and what really led to that? Like, what made you think we should have had a tree stand here 20 years ago, and why did you put it up there?
Yeah, so we do have a lot of permanent stands, but I also like to climb quite a bit. In the South, we're blessed with basically a lot of pine trees, or at least a lot of straight trees, because our forests are so dense. So there's a lot of areas I like to climb in, and sometimes it takes a while to kind of tweak that exact tree you're in. And usually if I find a real good spot climbing, I'll typically hang a permanent stand there, because a lot of times a real good spot is a real good spot for a very specific reason, and it stays a real good spot for a long time as long as there's no major habitat changes. The last spot like that I found was a couple of years ago. There was this funnel. Basically, it was a strip of trees that we left between a big food plot and a clear cut, and I knew that it was a good spot, especially during the rut, because it was on the downwind side of this big 20-acre clear cut, and I knew that a lot of bucks would be scent checking that spot. Especially when the rut rolls around. So I packed in there during the rut and hung a stand in that spot. The first time I hunted it, I saw 7 different what I would call shooter bucks or mature bucks out of that one tree. And so obviously we've got a very good permanent stand in that spot now. We've had some luck out of it, but that was just one of those things I kind of bumbled in there, hang and hunt kind of deal, and found how good of a spot it was. So every now and then you find those little gems.
So what's your plan early season? Do you focus on your food plots, or I know you plant them later, but I know you also have spring plots.
Yeah.
Or are you looking at mass trees, or?
Well, in our neck of the woods in the deep South, man, it's so hard to have food like in that October time frame when bow season opens, because you're usually in drought conditions. Now, if you hit the rain right and you plant right, then you can have a pretty decent stand to hunt over.
And you're talking to a dude from Florida about the deep South.
Yeah. You're right. You're right.
Don't you get rain every day, Mike?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Well,
but
like
then it's
where
like,
I am, when you're talking about hills where you've got bottomland, but not many people plant in the bottomland because you can't work that ground because it stays too wet. So people are planting on side hills and on tops of ridges, and it turns into like rock hard baked clay in the summertime. Not great food plot conditions. And so, every now and then, and the other problem too is that we live 4 hours away from that farm. So it's not like I can knock off of work and go plant like when I see rains coming, like at the snap of a finger. So sometimes we'll get a decent stand of food plots in before bow season opens. Most of the time we might be hunting what's left of some of the clover, some of the spring plots. This year we've got some pretty good stands of millet and stuff like that, which is not really a huge deer food, but they will browse on top of it. But what I usually end up doing this time of year, I'm hunting some of the beginnings of some mast, and then I'm hunting a lot of travel corridors. This is kind of a pretty good time of year to, right at the beginning of the season, you can kind of tuck in kind of close, but not too close to some of these bedding areas. And if you get like a little bit cooler than average morning, you might catch some bucks like coming back to bed before they've gotten too boogered for the season. So that's typically, I'll be hunting in the woods, either focusing on some of the earlier dropping oaks or some travel corridors. And then in the evenings, I'll be on food, any kind of food plots that we have that are decent.
You mentioned millet. Are you doing dove hunts at the beginning of the season?
Yeah, this is turkey food basically. We planted some mixes that just have some millet in it, as opposed to, in conjunction with a lot of other plants, and a lot of that stuff's gotten eaten out already for the summertime. But the deer don't really browse on the millet, so the millet has really thrived in some of these spots. Now we could dove hunt over it, but a lot of them are kind of in the core of our property, and I don't want to run around shooting shotguns in September before we're getting ready to hunt October 1.
So I got an off the wall question, man. I want to circle back to
Do it.
when you're entering in your stand early in the morning. I probably watched every single YouTube episode of The Hunting Public last year, and one thing those guys really brought to my attention and that I've never noticed is that flashlights really weren't bothering the deer that they came into contact with. What's your view on using a flashlight while going into the stand?
So I do use a flashlight. A lot of times I'll try to use a red beam that I feel like is a lot less visible. It's definitely toned down a lot. Supposedly the science behind it, the deer don't really, and other critters don't really see it as well. But for me, I don't feel like the light scares them too much. Now, if it's a super bright bulb that's shining, way off into the woods, that could be an issue. But I think that you do way more damage making a whole lot of noise than having just a little bit of light. So if you're trying to run around in the dark and you're stepping on sticks and breaking stuff and shuffling through the leaves, I feel like you're doing a lot more damage and you're touching a lot more stuff than if you just have a real dim kind of light and you can just kind of pick your way through the underbrush.
Do you usually hunt mornings early season, or do you wait for the rut for that? What's your idea about that?
It just depends. For me, since, like I said, we don't a lot of the farms that I hunt the most, we kind of live far away from. So if I'm there, I'm hunting. Now, of course, your success isn't usually as good in the early season, but you never know. I've had some good success on bucks, especially in the evenings, those first couple of weeks in October when it's 95 degrees out and you're pouring sweat. Sometimes you can catch those deer that are still kind of on a late summer pattern and you can have some success. That's really in the evenings, but in the mornings, I try to hunt. I usually don't hunt the core of the property or some of my better spots because I don't want to burn them out because I feel like that's a low percentage time frame. So I usually hunt on like the fringes, or I'll hunt on like lease property or somewhere else just to go. You never know when something luck might turn your way. That's what I typically do.
So do you have target bucks you're going after? I know you've been running cameras a little bit later, but I'm sure you have some bucks from last year, maybe you passed on or something like that.
Yeah, I typically do, and since I haven't checked any from the summer, I'm not 100% sure of who's around. And then I also haven't even gotten like my satellite camera sets out like on different parts of the lease property to find just random deer on there to kind of target. But on my own property, I know there's some bucks that have survived, and I honestly haven't put eyes on them yet this year. I'm just kind of behind the game on cameras.
Don't hold out on us. Give us some names. Yeah,
dude,
give us some names and tell us what they look like.
You beat me to it. I know
you're like being all like, oh yeah, there might be a couple around.
Yeah, I'm usually pretty secretive on bucks, but I know I have one deer in particular, and this deer I actually have already seen this summer. And he is, if you can believe it, he's 8.5 plus this year, 8.5 years old plus. And his rack is nice. He's gone downhill quite a bit since I knew him kind of in his prime. He's probably a 130, 135 type deer this year, but he weighs every bit of 260 pounds. He's really impressive, just huge body on him, dwarfs everything around him. But back in the day, he was every bit of 170 inches plus. But anyways, I've seen him this summer, and on one hand, I kind of want to target him. I would love to take him, but on the other hand, I kind of like just knowing that he's alive and he's made it this long. and he's kind of like a mascot, like a property mascot. And he's only been seen one time that I know of in daylight. And but anyways, we'll see. His name is Elvis.
Is there any chance that we can see a picture of this deer, like Mike and I?
I mean, maybe if I make you sign like a really crazy like contract, like what do they call it?
NDA.
Non-disclosure agreement.
I got one. Don't worry.
Adam, if you came out to the QDMA convention, you might have seen him already.
Well,
saying.
Yeah, I got a little loose at the bar and might have been flashing some pictures around. So
that's awesome.
Blame it on New Orleans.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah,
that's Kyle's crazy night. Oh man, I had a crazy night last night. I was showing trail camera pictures.
Camera pictures.
I think Mike was actually just lurking and just waiting for it to happen.
Just looking over his shoulder. Yeah. Don't mind me being creepy, trying to look at the pictures on your phone.
That's all you're getting, though. I'm not giving up anything else. So.
Yeah. What about gear? You got any new stuff you're trying out this year?
Yes. Actually really cool item I just purchased. I haven't received it yet, but I'm pretty jacked to try it. So I'm kind of picky about packs, like hunting packs that I carry. And for a few years now, I've used the Sitka toolbox, which I really like. It's kind of got the flap deal where you can, anyways, it's designed where you can hang the pack on the tree, and it's kind of like a bucket, like it's open and you can kind of reach in, keep all your stuff organized. And I really like that. But I found a new one not too long ago, and this is the Mystery Ranch. Blanket now. It's called the tree something. I just looked at it earlier. Hold on just a second.
This is really compelling audio right
Yeah, sorry. You can edit this out. Oh, okay. Look, we'll start right here. It's called the Mystery Ranch Treehouse pack, and it's a new pack from Mystery Ranch, and it's kind of built on the same deals. If you know anything about Mystery Ranch, they make really, really good packs. Most of their stuff's been Western. This is their first pack for kind of the whitetail deal, but basically the entire thing is designed to hang on the tree, and the top flap flips open and kind of makes like a shelf. And then the whole thing has a structural frame, not just where you against your back like a regular frame, but the entire pack is kind of framed out. So it holds its own structure. Like if it's empty, it doesn't collapse on itself. And so for keeping all your gear organized and stuff on the tree, like it's really nice. It stays open. You can just reach in. Y'all are just going to have to check it out. It's really cool. I haven't got it in yet, but I'm really excited to use it. It's got a really cool lashing system and stuff on it for you to attach your stand, which is what I plan to do. Like attach a lone wolf and sticks and hike in on some of the public land hunts I'm doing later in the year. Anyway, so I've got that. Haven't got it in yet. I've got some cool new pieces of Sitka whitetail gear I'm looking forward to using. That's about it. I got a really good bow rig that set up last year, a Matthews Halon 32s. I decided I didn't want to make any changes to that. I really enjoyed that whole system I built. And other than that, I don't think I have any new gear.
Your
Man,
public
that pack
land
sounds pretty cool. Adam, we need to get on Mystery Ranch, see if we can get him to kick one in for a giveaway for the new round challenge.
That would be cool.
That's going to be my email. I'm sending out tomorrow morning. We'll see if we can get that added in for everybody.
Yeah, it's a cool pack. I'm looking forward to testing. I mean, everything Mystery Ranch, if you're not familiar with them, they make really high quality hunting packs for like Western guys. So I know they're going to bring that same quality and innovation into the whitetail game. So like I said, I'm looking forward to testing this baby out. I'm a gearhead, so I'm always trying new stuff.
Well, your public land hunt, I'm curious. Last year you were using, I think, was it lone wolf sticks with the Millennium stand? And I know you picked up a lone wolf stand this year. Are you going to incorporate anything new into that public land hunting?
So I got a new set of lone wolf stick. Actually, I didn't use lone wolf sticks last time. I used just the regular ladder type stick. I didn't do like a hanging hunt last year. We just scouted and found some areas, and I hung some sets and just left them, and I rotated spots. And then I also climbed quite a bit last year. Like most people in the Midwest, not a lot of people use climbing stands, and I mean for good reason, because the trees aren't really suited to it. But this particular area we were hunting in northern Missouri, I actually found some decent spots that I could climb, and so I carried my climber quite a bit. But I knew that, that kind of kept me, it kept me from hunting just anywhere I wanted to. I mean, I had a lot of good spots that I could climb, but I knew I wanted to get a better system for kind of hanging hunt. And last year I was using a Millennium lock-on, which, Millennium makes a great stand, probably the most comfortable lock-on stand that I know of. But these Lone Wolf stands are like unbelievable. They weigh so much less. Of course, they're smaller, lighter, easier to carry, but they're actually stronger. They're rated for higher weight. And I got the new set of sticks, which I've used before. So I'm looking forward to doing more of a hanging hunt kind of deal, like basically hunting with a climber without a climber, instead using my lock on. So hiking into some of these spots and being pretty mobile is what I'm looking forward to. So that'll be in Missouri. I'm going back to northern Missouri, but I'm going to a different section. I'm going to kind of north central Missouri this year.
And this is public land too?
This is public land, yeah.
Cool.
Why a new
Me
section?
and my crew of rutcation guys. We just wanted to see some different country, and I've got some friends who hunt some private stuff nearby, and they just kind of knew the area, and it intrigued us. So we're just going to check it out.
So going back to gear real quick, is there anything else you're planning on buying before the season starts?
Well, don't ask me that, because I can always spend money. I can always find stuff to spend money on. I think I'm pretty good on deer stuff. I've been buying quite a few stuff for waterfowl hunting, but we won't dive into that, not on this podcast.
Man, we can talk waterfowl hunting. It's not the deer hunting podcast. It's down south. So how much of your season is focused on waterfowl versus deer?
So where I live now in Southwest Louisiana, I mean, there's a few deer here, but it's nothing great. And if y'all have heard me talk before, most of the hunting I do is in Mississippi, across the river, where the hunting's really good. And so typically on the weekends, I am traveling like from here where I live to where, to my places in Mississippi. But I live in like waterfowl Mecca. Like Southwest Louisiana is known for being, killer waterfowl hunting. It's all rice fields, and then transitions into fresh and saltwater marsh on the coast here. And so we get, I don't know what the statistic is, but we get millions of ducks and geese wintering here every year. And so all my buddies down here are like big waterfowl hunters. Like the level like that we're obsessive with deer, like they're into waterfowl. So I've always hunted a little bit ducks and geese, but I'm getting more and more into it now that I live here. But the good thing and how I treat it is like I can duck hunt during the week before work in the mornings, and then on the weekends I can go deer hunt. So that's kind of how I handle it.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you got your place, and you got the Missouri hunt. You got Colorado, right, out west?
Yep.
You got any other hunts planned?
No, not for deer. I mean, I'll be the Colorado and my big Missouri rut hunt in November are my two big trips. But I'll be at my own farm, pretty much every weekend. And then I always do. So my Missouri trip is my rutcation. Well, I get a week off for work around the holidays, and that just happens to be our peak rut in Mississippi. So that's my Christmas rutcation. And so I usually spend, 5 or 6 days straight rut hunting on our farm in Mississippi. And so that's kind of like a trip. That's just usually I just get weekends, and I'll just get a Saturday and Sunday to hunt. But it's nice to, occasionally get 5 or 6 days in a row to just hunt and hang out with the family. So that, I guess you could count that as another trip.
We talked about gear a little bit. One last thing with it though. We talked about this. Did you end up buying a saddle, or you going to try saddle hunting this year?
Man, I chickened out, guys. I chickened out. I love the idea of a saddle. I think it's a complete game changer. I love the new products that the tether guys have developed and come out with. But personally, I just don't. It's going to take me a long time to feel comfortable to do that. And it's just because I'm not a huge fan of heights, and I like to have stuff around me, and I like to have like a backup plan. So I don't think though I know those things are super safe, like I would probably still have to wear a safety harness with it just for my own my own mental well-being. And so at the end, I decided just not to do it this year. I figured, a new Lone Wolf's, stand and sticks would work for me, but that's not to belittle the saddles and to anyone else who's using it. I think it's the coolest thing. I actually talked to some of my other buddies who bought some and are jacked to use it, and I'm gonna test out theirs and see kind of how I like it. But for myself, yeah, I just chickened out. I'm not a height guy, so hanging off the side of a tree it does not sound fun to me. But
man, it's all good. They're not paying us anything. You don't have to do it.
Oh, I know. But just the versatility of those things, man, is incredible. So, and I'm interested to see how y'all treat it. I want to hear y'all's experience with it, because I think it's going to be an unbelievable tool.
If we die this season, you should not do it. Yeah.
R.I.P.
Not a bad idea to let some other people try it out first.
Yeah.
Not a bad idea.
That's kind of what I thought too. So, and big tree fall hard. So,
well, let's talk about tactics for a minute. So you're going on your public land Missouri hunt, new piece of property. I'm taking it. You've never been there, right?
Have not been here. No.
Okay. So I'm sure
Branding.
You're scouring
Never
over
seen
maps right now, right?
Absolutely. So I
What are you
already.
looking
Okay. So what I'm looking for, I like properties that are really fragmented. And for me, that's not blocks of timber, or at least blocks of timber that have a lot of creeks and drains in between. So I'm bow hunting. So I'm looking for anything that will pinch deer movement down like as tight as possible. So I'm looking for drains in fields. And when I say drains, I mean like creeks or places where the ag fields like drain into, where they've let the trees grow up. I'm looking for fence rows, inside corners. I'm looking for, some saddles between ridges, basically all your general topography. Mainly I'm doing all the aerial scouting I can, which I love to do. I've got some maps already. I'm looking on OnX, scouring these whole areas as much as I can with aerial and topography layers on. And then, when I get there, the first couple of days, I usually just scout, or I might just hang an observation stand, but I'll always ground check these spots like on foot and see where the most sign is. Just because, I spend all my vacation days hunting, I don't have a lot of time to go up there preseason and scout. So a lot of times when I go in and hunt, it's the first time I've seen the majority of these places. That's why, the aerial scouting is so important beforehand. And so I'll kind of ground check a lot of these spots and figure out what I think is the best and hunt there, hang my sets there. But I'm just looking for anything that will pinch deer movement down as tight as possible. Hopefully to 40 yards or so I can shoot them with an arrow.
So you're talking about ground scouting. Do you devote any certain amount of days to just scouting, or do you go in like the first day and you just go start hunting? What's your regimen there?
It just depends. Usually what I like to do when I get there, I have a whole index of spots that I think will be good. And the first thing I'll drive around and check and see how many trucks are parked in what area. And that'll cut it down some, because, if there's 3 or 4 trucks in this parking lot, I may not go into the spot. And I'll try to find places that are kind of out of the way. And then from there, I'll walk in, check some spots out. And then I'll hang some stands in either the best spots. That's typically how I treat it. And then I'll keep a couple mobile setups for just hopping around. But I usually will hang a couple permanent stands just so I have something easy to go get into.
These other guys you're hunting with, how many other guys are there? And are you guys kind of going off of each other scouting? Like, if somebody sees a good buck in the area, you kind of all moving in there? Or how's that work?
No, we don't really do that, but we do help each other out a lot. Especially the first few days. We usually will split an area up, break it up into sections. All these guys are people I hunt with quite a bit, and I trust their judgment. And so we'll all kind of scout different regions and report back, and we help each other. If someone finds a spot, usually a couple of us will go walk in there with him and help him hang his set. And I know that people probably have thoughts about that as far as like bringing more scent and more commotion into an area, but it's just easier and safer to get a stand hung when there's multiple people. And so we'll just, we'll be quiet and hike into these spots, and it's good to bounce your ideas off of somebody, as far as the exact tree to put it in or whatnot. But we'll help each other out quite a bit. That's part of, for me, these big DIY, like out of state trips, that's the social aspect of it is a lot of fun. It's just out hunting with your buddies, and y'all are all grinding, fighting on, public land, it's just, there's a big draw to that. I really enjoy it.
I think one thing with you going up there, like for the rut, it's kind of different in that scenario where the bucks you guys are seeing might be from 2 miles away. That's not, your disturbance of one day, those bucks could be traveling 5 miles in a day, or I know, especially out in more open country like that.
Right. Right. And, we've also, deer on public land are kind of different sometimes. I'm not saying, they're harder. They're definitely harder to hunt than most deer on private land. Now, a lot of that doesn't mean that deer on private land are easy to hunt. But what I found, at least, is a lot of the deer on public land, they get hunted harder and by more people, but they're also a little more used to like human scent. So they might not booger out quite as much at the first introduction. I know that sounds really weird, and it's probably the opposite of most people think, but we've definitely hung some stands and had a opposite reaction of what we thought would happen when the deer kind of crossed our paths the next day. I think they just get used to a lot of people walking around.
So I got a scent control question. You've been talking a lot about walking around. Rubber boots or hiking boots? How do you roll?
Okay, it depends on the temperature, for one. But I'm usually if it's not too far of a hike, I'm a rubber boots guy. If I'm hiking, more than a mile and a half into my spot, I'm wearing hiking boots.
That's cool. We had a thread going on Hunting the South, a couple of different threads actually, talking about hunting boots the other day. And I really didn't throw my 2 cents on it, but I'm exact same way. Like if I don't have a long walk, I'm rubber boots with insulation. Mm-hmm. If I got to walk in there, I got some really good Rocky hiking boots. That's about 200 grams of insulate, and I take those little boot blankets with me and I throw them on, and that seems to work pretty good. Even if I need to throw a hand or foot warmer in there. Oh
yeah, I don't think I've ever used those boot blanket. It's like an insulated cover.
Yeah, man. It's I'm trying to think who makes it. It's literally like a piece of cloth. No, so a boot that you put over your boot, you zip up. A long time ago, there used to be huge, puffy, like down type boot blankets, and now they're just these cloth type blankets that you can throw some hand warmers in, and it works perfectly.
I think it's Arctic Shield, I think.
That's it.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Pretty cheap too, like $30 maybe.
Hunting gear deals. Probably have a deal on them.
.com.
At your boy. So I did think of another piece of gear that I got, and I actually got it, 4 elk hunting, but I think I'm going to use it whitetail hunting quite a bit. So last year, with it being my first elk trip, I kind of got into the bino harness deal. And before that, I'd never really liked to wear, or I was real picky about how I wear my binoculars whitetail hunting. But hunting out west and carrying it on me all day, I really like to have that bino pack on my chest. And last year, I got the Alaskan Guide Creation. Liked it, had some features I really liked, a couple features I wasn't crazy about, but overall liked it the best. This year, I just got the marsupial bino pack, which is a little different design. It's a little slimmer, and I like it better than the Alaskan Guide. But I like it so much, I'm actually planning on wearing it whitetail hunting, just to kind of keep my binos and like my rangefinder and all my gear like real tight against my chest instead of hanging it up somewhere where I have to grab it. That's kind of a weird thing. I don't know if anyone's ever tested those out in the tree stand, but I'm planning on it.
So I have something on the bino harness. When I went out west, I used like I think it's the FHF gear bino harness.
A lot of guys like that model.
So I was with Jason. I've talked about Jason quite a few times on the podcast. Guy I'm going to hunt in Kentucky with. He had on a Rick Young bino harness, and literally that is nothing but it's some kind of like spongy elastic straps. And I don't have the right terminology, but if you guys will look it up, maybe we'll put some show notes in there. Rick Young bino harness. This thing,
it the bungee cord?
Yeah, it's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Bungee cord.
I have one of those, and that's what I usually wear whitetail hunting.
Dude, for whitetails and turkeys,
I love
it's perfect.
I love it, but I have one complaint, is that the bungee can be loud on the material that you're wearing it under. So bungee cords are like ribbed, and in between the ribs is where the elastic is.
Yeah.
And so that rib, when you pull it against something, it can be loud. It makes like a zipper type noise. And that's the only complaint I have, but for flexibility, I loved it. So I could like wear it crossways across my chest and like keep my binoculars like on my side, like under my left arm out of the way.
It's really cool.
Or you could kind of rig it up into a makeshift harness. But that is a cool product. I still have it and probably will use it some. But I just kind of like the idea of having that. The marsupial harness, you can actually open it, and it has magnets attached to where it stays open. So you could leave it open, but just leave your binos like sitting in it, and they're still real secure. I kind of like that idea too. So anyway, it's just something else for me to test out,
Yeah, I'm all about that, testing out new gear. I'm a little bit of a gear junkie. Unfortunately, I'm trying to stop doing that, but man, it's fun trying out new stuff and finding out what really works for you.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Kind of wrapping this up, do you have any tactics that you're planning on trying that's going to be a little different on your farm this year? Based on anything you learned, either QDMA or listen to podcasts or anything else. Anything you want to do differently this year?
Not really. I wish that I had the time and resources to actually go in, like Marcus Lashley's talk at QDMA about the bow. They call it bow range burning is kind of what they dubbed it. But he did that research where he did the prescribed burn like within 40, 50 yard circumference of your bow stands. And
yeah, I just heard that on the Mississippi State.
Yeah, Deer Lab.
Well.
Deer University.
Yeah.
So Marcus is a habitat guy and obviously very bright, but he did research on basically instead of doing big blocks of prescribed fire on habitat, they're doing like these just little mini sections in the woods, like, I don't know, like 50 square yards or something like that, and then testing the forage out and what came back in those areas. And basically what they found out is deer were more likely to visit a site by like 13 times.
Yeah, that's what I heard
likely
too. Yeah, that's awesome.
If they did a little burn in that area, just
and
a little small burn
is what they measured. Like they were getting more visits during the daylight versus night. I guess there was more competition.
Right. So they kind of translated that into, okay, well, you could just take a bow stand and then burn a circumference around it, or within range of your bow stand, and ultimately have more shot opportunities theoretically. So they just kind of dubbed it bow range burning. And I think it's a really cool idea. I don't think that I'm going to get to do it this year, but in the future, I'd definitely like to test it out. But I think that's some cool research that came out of QDMA convention. I think that was the first time that he had publicly talked about that particular vein of research he was doing. So pretty cool. Y'all should try it out. Just be safe.
Yeah, that was a lot of talking for you to say you're not going to do it, though.
Well, I want to.
No, I think it's pretty cool, too. It is kind of late to try to do it. But they did say one more thing. I think they said on that podcast, like, they were getting, like, increased visits, like, as soon as, like, 2 days after, maybe. But even, like, sure. I know they said, like, 2 weeks for sure. So, like, even if it's right before season, it could help.
Definitely. And critters just love fire. That's a whole different talk we can do another day. But, man, it's just so good for the habitat if it's done correctly.
Last question.
Okay.
Talk to me about your hunting goals for next year or this coming year. Do you have any?
Well, my freezer is pretty lacking of venison right now. I'm running on my last few packs of deer meat, and so I would definitely like to fill the freezer up. Main thing for me as far as goals is just to meet my doe harvest criteria on my farm, so that we can, keep the herd as balanced as possible.
How many is that?
So on our private property, we usually try to kill 8 to 10, and that's off of 400 acres.
Yeah,
and
is that like just you and your dad hunting that?
Well, and we bring people too that hunt with us, but on our club, we need to kill at least 60, and so that's going to be something else we need to handle. We've been a little low the past few years, but we need to kill more than 60 doe. So goal of me is just to make sure we hit those. And then also, obviously I would love to kill a mature 4.5-year-old plus buck, especially one of my target deer, but it's kind of hard to set that goal because so much of it rides on luck. It's kind of hard to will that into existence.
I know we talked about this before, but I know you love hunting with the bow, but with the does, are you getting the gun out just to be able to kill more does?
Yeah, but I typically don't do it till the very end of the season. And even then it can be difficult because they get the deer where I hunt, the deer get really spooky at the end of the season, especially the does. It can get as hard to kill does as it is to shoot like a big deer, a big buck. But yeah, we'll bring the guns out at the end of the season and take some more does off of some of the food plots. But for the most part, we're trying to do it all with a bow.
All right, Adam, I'm ready to hear about some velvet buck hunting.
Yes, so, move on from me.
Tennessee's got the new hunt this year. Tell us all about it. I know that's going to be your first hunt, right?
It will be. So it's a 3-day hunt. I'm pretty sure. I'm going to check the regs before I go off into the woods, but I think it's the 24th, 25th, and 26th. Private land only for all of you guys that are posting on Facebook that you're going to go on public land. That is a big no-no, and TWRA will find you. So be careful.
So what's the reasoning behind the decision to open this season? Just out of curiosity, are they just finding it anyway?
Awesome?
Because
I agree with that. I didn't know if there was another reason.
I think it is for like a hunter opportunity. I've tried to read into this a lot, some of the different reports, but I think it's more around hunter opportunity, getting people psyched up. Our neighbors to the north in Kentucky, they start the very following weekend. So I think it's kind of cool. We got to jump in front of them all of a sudden.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
We talked about it a little bit last week, but what's your plan for the hunt?
So, man, I have just been a couple of things. I got 2 trail cameras out. One of them is about to be moved. That's not a whole lot. But the property's not huge in itself either, where I really want to hunt on this particular hunt. I got a mineral station out, which is totally legal to hunt over as long as it has no food products in it, and my minerals do not. Trail cameras over that. I've had some deer that would be very tempting to shoot, I'm going to say, but nothing that I'm really like, I'm just going to pull the trigger on just yet. So I actually had my dad, he moved my camera this past week to one other section of the farm. So he's going to let that sit out there for a week on another mineral site that we have, and going to let me know kind of what that situation looks like. If I don't have any what I'll call shooters pop up on either camera, my brother, he has a camera out too, and I think it's a spy point. It's a cell phone camera or whatever. It shoots pictures to us, and he hasn't had any shooters, but there is at least one what I'll call shooter on our farm that's been spotted. I will probably go hunt very close to where he was spotted, because where he was at was a huge chunk of cover. And I'm not going to say that that's his bedding area, but where he was at, there's a ton of white oaks, and they drop acorns really good this time, getting pretty soon. So I would feel comfortable hunting there, and that's probably where I'll start, because my access is really good on all different sides of this potential spot. So if nothing else pops on the camera, that's where I'm going.
Do you have a different definition of shooter for the velvet hunt, or are you going to kind of stick? What's your definition of shooter?
Oh man. I'm going to say that if I can judge a deer to be over 3.5 years old, or over, let's say, like 120, 25 inches, that's a shooter for me.
I like it.
Yeah. Thanks.
What about, are you worried about age? I guess that kind of goes with it, huh?
Man, I have a deer one of the deer that I was talking about, and maybe I don't know if I want to post this out online, and kind of like Kyle, but I have a deer. I think he was a 9 or a 10 point, and I'm not sure that he's at 3.5, but I've never seen a deer this big in Tennessee that wasn't at least a 3.5-year-old deer. So maybe I'll shoot it to you two guys and see what y'all think.
Yeah, just send me the picture and like the GPS coordinates and like your work schedule on when you're going to be traveling, and I'll, give you my best assessment as a, quality deer manager.
I'll just post it up online and get some other feedback on it and get back to you.
We could do that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my plans, man. So I'm gonna spend a little time at home too, and spend some time with some family that I don't get to normally see.
So how are you gonna tackle like those early hunts? Like,
as far
give me your rundown.
So, I'm going in mobile. I don't have any permanent sets set up where I want to hunt. It will either be with a saddle, which I highly doubt at this point, or most likely, no offense, Greg, but it will be with a climber. So I'll be going in with a climber, and again, like I talked about with access, like I just want to be able to get into spots where I can get into potential bed to feed areas without making a ton of noise and bumping deer out. Because I've just seen, like in the past, like deer don't get on their feet and move a lot during this time of year. It's usually bed to food. So that's what I'm going to try to do.
They also typically bed like really tight to food, so it can kind of be hard to sneak in there a lot of times. Yeah. Fortunately, one of my cameras, the
first gonna hunt mornings.
Actually, I'm going to hunt. Man, I hope I kill Friday afternoon is what I hope I do. That's the first day I'll be going. I'm going to take off half a day. So I'm going in Friday afternoon. If I don't kill, I think that I will go in Saturday morning. But it's going to kill me too, because I've just never had success early season, which I've never hunted this early, but never had success early season in the mornings.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with those only couple of days on it, like might as well.
Yeah. I'm going all the way down there. It's like a 3-hour drive, so I'm not going down there and not hunting.
Definitely.
I'm not going fishing. That'd be stupid.
That's cool. Like I don't think there are very few places in the South where you have the opportunity to kill velvet whitetail.
Yeah.
With the exception of like South Carolina or I guess Florida. What's the deal with? Are there people shooting velvet whitetails in Florida? I know the season opens in like July in South.
Yeah,
like deep
I don't
South
really
Florida.
think so, because they're actually like rutting in July.
They've already shed. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I
think their velvet. Yeah.
I could be wrong, but isn't it like an axis deer situation in South Florida where they're just like, it's so far south and the climate is so good, I guess, that they're basically in various stages of rut like any time during the year?
No, because they only go like cycle one time, or it's just that the habitat is different, and two, I think the deer, like where they were stocked from, came from such different areas. So the best argument I've heard, is I've heard Mark Kenyon talked about this, and some of the biologists talk about this, where they had stock deer from different areas, and the amount of daylight in South Florida is different than the amount of daylight somewhere else, and somehow that transferred into how long that was. That seems somewhat feasible, but it's really crazy. You can have areas that are across the street from each other, and the rut would be a couple months different. But it's still like, I still believe there's like a defined rut in certain areas. Like certain doe groups are going to go into heat like at certain times every year. You just like, the state has some maps, and it's really like you can't do like a whole region. It's very specific to separate properties. So anyway, way down south, they're rutting in like July. That's why they start the hunt that early, so the guys down there can get a little piece of that rut action.
Yeah, Mississippi's kind of like that too, and they attribute a lot of that back to restocking. Our rut is like between Christmas Day and New Year's Eve is kind of when it peaks, but we see rut activity from like mid-December on. But another theory I've heard that I don't think they've ever really proven, and they said it might have some effect, is, we're along the Mississippi River. And so if you look at a rut map of the South, these areas that are along these major river systems are typically later, and they attribute that back to does dropping fawns because they're being bred later. They're dropping the fawns later, which means that the fawns will be mature enough to be on their feet during spring floods, or it'll be after spring floods. Excuse me. So the fawns will drop after the spring floods. So I don't know if there's ever been any research to prove that. I don't really think they know the answer, but it's kind of cool to think about. Of course, I don't know how that ties in with, July in Florida. Maybe they're trying to beat hurricane season. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like there isn't enough environmental influence to really define when it needs to be. So
that's kind of how it is with the axis deer, and I think it's the axis deer in Hawaii. This is kind of the point I was making. The climate's ideal, so they just kind of rut all year long, just whenever they feel like it, I guess.
And a lot of people think that there's not, like, it's, it'll trickle through the whole season or whatever, which there definitely isn't like the environmental influence to say it has to be during these 3 weeks, and like otherwise those does would be eliminated. So there's some of that, but I also think a lot of the lower rut activity we see here is just lower deer density. When you don't have a lot of bucks and you have a lot of does, you're just not going to get a stronger rut activity. I think that's what I would attribute to a lot more of the problem, is just having less bucks, because I would think some really good properties that have a good ratio is still going to get strong rut action, but hard to know for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
We definitely got way off of talking to Adam here.
Yeah, sorry, Adam.
Mike and Kyle show for a little bit.
It's all right, guys. I was just checking out some maps while y'all were doing that. It's good.
Scouting. So, Adam, what else you got going on?
You're going to Kentucky, right?
Right after, man. So the next week, I'm going on another velvet hunt. I'm going up to Kentucky to hunt some public land. Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, taking a day off to do that.
So
what's the plan there?
Yeah, what's your reason behind doing these like early season like velvet hunts instead of maybe waiting a little bit later and doing like a rut hunt?
So I am going to do a run hunt. Hunt. I am going to do a rut hunt.
A rut hunt.
I was like, you're hunting Florida.
But
yeah, I was going to say Mike's always doing a rut hunt.
But yeah, so the first week of September is just trying to get an early shot at a deer coming to food. I've killed my biggest deer coming to beans, and as everyone knows, it's hard to do that unless you can hunt in September. So I have an opportunity to do that in Kentucky. I'm going to take advantage of that, but I'll be going back to Kentucky in November.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What property is going to be hunting? Sorry, I had a hard time with that question. So you're hunting your family farm, and then you're hunting Kentucky. I know we talked about you just last week, you got permission to go through a property to hunt some public. How's your split going to be where you're hunting?
So I have about 3 different properties that I'm going to hunt this year. The first would be my home farm down in the southern part of Tennessee. The second would be close to home, and that's all public land, which is split up like pretty much water access only. And then the Kentucky hunt is a WMA by itself, but I also put in the last few years for a draw hunt on a WMA. So if I do draw that hunt in Kentucky, it will completely change where I've hunted or where I'm going to hunt in November for Kentucky. But I'm a little bit sketchy on that. If I draw that tag, it's a place that I haven't really put my boots on the ground and scouted a lot, so kind of worried about it. But if I do draw it, hey, I'm going to give it a shot.
When do you find out about that?
The draw is actually in September, and I think I find out at the end of September that WMA will shut down in October, except I think it's like October 15th for the awardees of the hunt or whatever.
Nice.
Yeah.
So are you going to be doing anything habitat-wise on the family farm?
No, man, we don't. We've talked about for years of putting out some food plots and stuff, but we have cattle running on it. My dad usually has goats. He doesn't have any goats right now, but just doing anything for deer, we've decided not to at this point. We do have one section, it's about 20 acres, I think, that's fenced off for my dad's goats, that we're thinking about maybe next year doing something there. But right now, we're not going to do anything other than throwing some minerals out, which we've already done, and throwing cameras out there.
Have you thought about dressing in a goat costume in attempts to get closer to some of these mature bucks?
That works out west, right?
Right.
I can totally do
I'd
that.
like to see that on Instagram.
Since we're talking about tactics, valid question.
Hey, man, I could maybe do like Jeremiah Johnson and get behind the goat and cruise in with it, because deer don't know how many legs the goat has. Right. So
Montana Decoy makes all those decoys. Maybe get them to make a goat decoy.
Yeah, down south special edition goat.
What about a gobbler strutter for real? Why not reap a deer? Has anyone done that? Let's hear back from the listeners. And I could have just invented something that's completely genius.
I feel like that's a great way to get your head blown off.
Yeah, with a rifle. Yeah, during deer season.
Yeah. Maybe you guys should listen to me.
This is the South, even outside of deer season.
Yeah, that's a good point right there.
All right, so I have a velvet question.
Go for it, man.
So have you harvested a velvet buck before?
So I've shot 2 deer with velvet hanging off their antlers, but not fully velvet.
Not full velvet.
Yeah.
Okay. I've always been intrigued by that, because I've read up on how you have to inject the horn or inject the velvet with what's that liquid that they use in medicine? What's it to keep specimens?
Formaldehyde?
Yeah, you inject formaldehyde into the veins to keep the velvet, because once you kill the deer, the velvet will start to die, because the velvet's a living part of the deer's body, and so you inject it with formaldehyde to keep it.
Yeah, my
taxidermist. Have you looked into that, Adam? You ready for this?
Dang it, guys! Now I got to go do some research.
You got to go talk to the muley guys. They know how to handle it.
That's
the early
true.
Season muley guys, the guys who are hunting right now in the high basins, are all prepared with their formaldehyde filled syringes.
So
they can give you the deets.
If I
guys across Tennessee are going to be like, dang it, now what do I do?
Yeah.
Here's 2 things. I'm not pulling back on a deer that I'm probably not going to mount. So in Kentucky, Jason's already done the hard work and found a taxidermist in Kentucky. And one of the laws in Tennessee is we're not going to be pulling, deer across the state line that's not been completely cleaned up anyway. So if I shoot a deer in Kentucky, it's going on my wall and I'm taking it to a taxidermist. I ain't too worried about it.
There you go.
How about that?
Yeah, that's true. I don't think. You still have hours to do that, right, Kyle?
It's probably more
for
like
guys
days.
packing out.
Yeah,
I hope it's
more
days.
Like days.
Somebody please chime in and tell us
it's
afterwards.
Pretty quick, I think,
or at least day singular is probably the most you would want to do.
Well, we do have
that I'm an expert.
We have a freezer. Well, I'm not using that on this velvet hunt. Never mind. Check that. I'm using that on my rut hunt. I'm going to a cabin We're actually camping on this velvet hunt in Kentucky, but in November we've got cabins lined up, and in that cabin, that place, they have a walk-in freezer. It'll be
Yeah,
awesome.
definitely look into it because that would really stink to lose your velvet
All right, so
after a few hours. Yeah.
so guys didn't ask me this. Go ahead.
I was going to say, did y'all see that video the other day of the taxidermist applying the fake velvet? It actually looked pretty legit.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I saw it on Facebook. It was like he was like applying like a glue or something to the horns and like blowing fibers on it. And they actually looked like real velvet to me. So.
All right. So besides looking up what to do with a velvet buck, what else do you got to do before the season starts?
Yeah, you got to do this before you need to look up what to do with velvet buck.
So I'm going to just not even focus on the taxidermy side. I do want to tell you guys one thing that I have been proactively doing over the last couple of weeks, and that's building out spreadsheets of the areas that I want to hunt, and within those areas, the tree stand locations, and within that, another column for the wind to hunt those tree stand locations. And then the fourth column is when I would want to hunt those tree stand locations by the time of year. So one of the problems I have personally is, having too many spots to hunt is a good thing, but it can also be a little bit overwhelming because you're just paralysis by analysis, thinking about, oh gosh, I'm going to Kentucky next weekend. The wind's doing this, the weather's doing this. Like, what tree stand do I want to hunt? For some reason, that overwhelms me. So this year, I'm doing this Barney style. I have a spreadsheet. I'm going to just narrow it down to say the area that I want to go to. Now, let's just focus on Tennessee. So in Tennessee, public land close to my house, it's broken up into tons of different sections. I said it was water access only. I'm calling that 10 different areas that I can hunt. And within those 10 different areas I can hunt, I may have 5 different tree stand locations. So I'll choose the area that I want to hunt, the wind that it is that day, and then boom, it's like you only have 2 or 3 stand locations. So then you can just look at 2 or 3 instead of the whole stupid map. That's one of the things I've been working on.
Yeah,
Nice.
It's a good system. We have that for my place where I've got permanent stands. I have them all like organized by various columns, so that I can look at different factors and figure stuff out. Not just winds, but like seasonal conditions and what type of masses drop in, access, etc. So
Of
pretty
course, this is not an original idea. Thanks a lot, Kyle. I thought it was original.
Yeah.
I've been like
Sorry.
I think like 2 weeks ago I came up with this. I was like, this is genius.
Should have talked to Kyle first, I guess.
Of course. Go
Yeah.
figure. So,
Sorry.
hey, maybe it's new to someone else like me.
Nah,
Hey.
the probably all the hardcore deer guys like from the 80s that have books that are like older than some of us. So
Well, Warren
keep back
Womack.
all the statistics. Oh yeah.
I kind of got the idea from him a little bit because he kept talking about his journal, and I was thinking, okay, how could I keep a journal but keep it really like systematized? Or is that a word? I don't know. Yeah, sounds
Dr.
good.
Bob, too. He talked about it.
Yeah, Dr. Bob. Those guys that was hunting back, like Kyle said, the 80s and before.
Yeah. Yeah. He was doing the whole spreadsheets and all that good stuff, too. So, hey, have you scouted all these spots this year? Or is this like based on prior knowledge or maps, or how you breaking those down?
My dad's. I haven't scouted my dad's as much as I'd like to, and I've been hunting there over 20 years, and so I don't really feel like I have to scout it as much. But the other areas I scouted during the wintertime. So, oh, man, I just told the WMA. Can we edit that out?
Dun, dun,
Dun, dun.
Yeah.
Oh, so the
Yeah.
public ground I'm hunting in Tennessee, I've actually scouted most of the places
to
that I'm
bleep
going to
it.
hunt. Yeah, we're gonna have to bleep that last part. And then in Kentucky, I think Jason and I, we figured we scouted 30% of the WMA in Kentucky, and it's a huge chunk of land. So we did more of a speed scout, is what I'll call it. Well, I'm pulling that from like the Infault and the Hunting Public guys. They do the speed scout. We did basically the same thing.
All right, so let's get into gear with you. You got anything new this year you're trying out?
The saddle, man. I'm keeping it simple.
Ooh.
I'm usually
That's it,
gear
huh?
changing. That's literally the new piece of gear that I'm trying out. I've tried to not spend money on a bunch of gear this year and just kind of save it up for tags and hopefully a couple of taxidermy bills is what I'm really hoping for.
I mean, that is like a pretty serious gear change to make.
Oh yeah, man, that was a chunk of change. Really?
All right. So, anything you need to buy before the season? Then it sounds like maybe you got it wrapped up.
No, I do want to buy one thing, and that's a muzzleloader, and I'm not sure that I'm going to. I sold my muzzleloader a few years ago, and it was based off the idea that I wanted to dedicate myself to the bow. And after a few years of dedicating myself to the bow during muzzleloader season in Tennessee, I've kind of thought that was stupid. So I want a muzzleloader.
Yeah.
Like what kind of muzzleloader? Like a old fashioned kind, or like a higher end kind?
Basically one that I can reach out there and touch. So higher end for sure.
I like that.
Yeah.
We need to do. We're going to do a muzzleloader episode, but
Yeah,
man,
that's
one piece
that's
of
one
advice.
thing I know next to nothing about.
Yeah, same
That's
here.
amazing. I
Oh,
didn't know there was such
son.
thing.
That was good.
One piece of advice I got, because mine is get it like Cerakoted or stainless steel. We talked to Tony Smotherman about it a little bit, but man, if that's one thing I wish I had, because those things rust in a second.
I'm buy once, cry once kind of guy, man. So whatever Tony,
I like it.
yeah, I'm gonna spend the money on it.
And y'all know me, I'm like the opposite.
Yes.
Hunting gear deals.
Yeah. Buy it cheap.
Yeah.
I like it.
But I like to buy quality cheap too. But whatever it is, it's going to be cheap.
That's cool. Yeah. So, since we're talking about gear, I got a jump back question about the saddle, if I have y'all's permission.
Go for it.
Okay. So, how are you planning to climb the tree to saddle hunt? Like to actually ascend the tree? Like, how are you going to do it?
Lone Wolf sticks.
Okay.
That's how I'm going.
Okay.
I'm not buying any new gear for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like my sticks.
Yeah, sticks work great. Okay, just curious. I'm hear like so much different stuff from these saddle guys. I'm just curious. So some of them are like so intense about weight and the gear they're carrying in. I'm just curious to see what everyone's coming up with on the climbing side. I'm not nearly brave enough like Mr. Womack to use what did he call them, the tree spikes, like the shoes, like to, oh man, nope.
Oh yeah,
this is not for this guy, not yet.
Mm-hmm. No,
I want to, but I'm too cheap.
No.
Man, those things are expensive, so I'm gonna go with what I got.
I am super out of
first
shape.
of-
Last year I was so out of shape, guys, on the hanging hunts. It was embarrassing. So one of the other things I've started doing is working out. And I've been pretty
You're
consistent.
doing what, CrossFit?
I am doing CrossFit at 4:30 in the morning.
I
Don't
like
you have
it.
to, like, to be a good hunter? Don't you have to do something like that's called something for hunting? Like I don't know, some hunt fit or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
don't you have to do a hunting specific program to be any good at hunting?
Yeah,
Why haven't we seen any selfies, like gym selfies?
dude, I'm not that kind of guy.
Dude, you
Well,
don't
plus
work
I've
out
heard-
unless
I've
you
heard
get a
your,
selfie.
You told me that story of your gym owner posting the video of you anyway.
Oh, dude. Okay, this is hilarious. So I have to talk about this. My gym, the CrossFit box owner, we have a group page, and then obviously he has his business page. So in his business page, he posts a picture of me standing over an empty barbell, bent over, looking like I was going to vomit. And he said something along the lines of like, we're all on a different leg of our journey. And I'm thinking, dude, couldn't you have waited until I had the plates on the barbell so I look like a man? But yeah,
Not everyone can lift, dude. Not everyone can lift. It's
obviously
okay,
I
man.
can't. That's why I'm not posting pictures.
You gotta start somewhere, man. Those bars are heavy, so we'll forgive you.
It was the training
We know
bar,
you're
I'm pretty
just
sure.
You're just a slight fellow, and you'll get there one day. Like eventually, you'll get to like 30 or 40 pounds.
I'll be as big as you and Mike someday.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I'm just biting my lip. All right. How about new tactics this year? You trying anything different?
New tactics, man. You would have thought I'd have thought more about this. I'm really okay. So I know one of the questions you asked Kyle, and I think that's coming from me too, and that's like hunting goals. One of my hunting goals was to literally kind of embrace the Dan Infault hunting bee style of hunting on some of the properties where it made sense, and I thought it did, especially like Kentucky, for instance. So that's what I'm going to try to do, which will have to be a modified version, I'm sure, just based off of the different style of terrain and places to hunt.
I don't know if you're prepared for this, but can you explain like what that means, like what your plan is?
Oh man. Yeah, I'm totally not prepared for this. I've taken a deep dive approach about tree stand locations, and let's just say that in the past, based off of what Dan has said in his videos, blogs, the forum on the Hunting Beast forum, I really feel like I've had my tree stands too high up the hillsides. I hunt a lot of hilly terrain, and I feel like I've been missing out on possibly some of the action because I've been too high up and not maybe down towards that military crest or whatever he might say. So that's one of the, just like, that's a slight change of say like 100 yards of a tree stand location. And that's not going too deep, but that's just one particular change I'm looking at.
Are you assuming they're like bedding at the bottoms, and so you're gonna be catching them closer that way, or are you more talking like a wind tunnel at the 2/3 elevation during rut cruising, or
wind tunnel 2/3 elevation during rut cruising? Because that's when I'll be in Kentucky.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's basically where I'm going to try to use these tactics. And the other piece of this is hunting off of access. The property that I'll be hunting, the WMA, is way too easy to access. It's tough because, like I said last year on the podcast, everywhere I thought would be a great spot based off of the maps, topography, everyone else obviously looked and saw the same exact things that I did. So I'm trying to look at these maps based off of experience last year, based off of scouting this past winter, and say, okay, guys are going to hunt here. Where are they not going to hunt? Where are the deer going to be pushed? Where is the feed? Where is the bed? Based off of these decisions, that's where I've marked my potential tree stand locations right now. It's really off of, not just off of beast tactics. That plays a big part in it because I think it's fun to think of something new, but it's really where, I'm going to see other hunters going in. And I could be totally wrong. I could still see hunters going in, but we'll see.
So you got any other goals? You're going to like try to get a deer loaded on your kayak, that new water access you got, or what else are you looking for this season?
So both of my goals had nothing to do with killing this year. Completely opposite last year. Like Kyle said, that's got a little bit of luck involved. It was more about learning. So my other goal was to buy a couple more books, and one I bought was just based off of I can't remember the dadgum name. It's in my backpack right now, but I want to learn more about what deer are actually feeding on throughout the entire year, and how do I identify different forbs and browse. So I'm just learning.
You got to get forest plants of the Southeast and their wildlife uses.
That's the exact one I got, and it was by Michael Pike. Posted it on Facebook and off our Hunting in the South group page, and I bought it as soon as I saw him talking about it. And I think you commented too. So that's why I bought it.
Yeah, it's definitely it's the go-to for plant ID in the Southeast. So
nice. We got to get Craig Harper on here to talk about that.
Absolutely.
Sure.
I have another tree one too, and it's by the University of Tennessee. I think Craig Harper had to do something with that. That was the second book I have, and it's free PDF.
Garbage, UT.
Yeah,
Craig Harper, come on, dude.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
native trees of the Southeast.
That's it. I think it's native trees of the Southeast, and I have it on my iPad. So
I have it too. We need to have it. We should have a hunting book discussion because I have an entire shelf.
That sounds riveting.
Oh yeah, okay.
Let's talk about books for an hour.
I feel like
we're gonna blow the download numbers out.
I want my IQ of all of that type of information to be at a really high level. So that was a goal this year. That and the Hunting Beast Tactics is to really be able to wrap my mind around it and to talk intelligently about it because it really interests me.
That's always a good goal to have every year, and everyone should be trying to do that all the time. Make yourself better. Know more things. So just to jump on the Craig Harper train really quick, I don't know if y'all remember in the first podcast where y'all interviewed me last year, a long time ago, and I brought up, we were talking about the Deer Steward program, and I was talking about how great Craig Harper was, and I made the mention of I was talking about how good of a speaker he was, and made some sort of comment like I would pay him to read me bedtime stories. Well, at QDMA convention, somebody outed me. Like I was hanging out with Craig one night at one of the events, and somebody came up and said, "Hey, did you hear about Kyle telling people that he wanted to pay you to read him bedtime stories on this podcast?" It was awesome.
Yeah, who was that? Lindsey Thomas that did that to you?
No, it was John Eastman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks, John.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks for
it.
listening, John. Yeah.
So now Craig thinks I'm like a stalker.
We might be, all of us.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't deny it, but it was funny.
All right, so we're getting deep into this. Do you guys have any more questions for me, or can we transition over to Mike?
I'm ready to talk to Mike.
What's that?
I'm ready to talk to Mike.
Yeah, we saved me for last, so we can, all the people that want to only listen partway through can cut it off.
I want to hear what the Hog Man is doing this year.
Hogman, tell us, where is your first hunt, and when does that take place?
Man, so unfortunately, they're gonna have a theme here. I'm gonna try not to just talk about how busy I am and how I don't know anything yet. So I'm gonna try not to be too repetitive, but when it comes to the first hunt, that's definitely the case. I'm not sure yet. I have a public piece I've never been on before, and it's about 4 hours away. And I picked it up in a redraw, and that's where that's my only archery specific WMA. Maybe not quite 4, maybe 3 hours, but either way, it's along a river, so I think it could be good. And then also got my dad's private land, that's up in that same area, and he's got 100 acres. Nobody else bow hunts, so that might be my only chance. The only thing with my dad's place, I've mentioned this before, it's 100 acres, but there's not a lot of deer on it, and I've got probably 4 or 5 people in my family that want to hunt. So, I always feel bad. Like, I don't want to pressure that area. I'm the only one in my family that hunts public. So I always don't really want to take any deer off of there before they get a chance to hunt it. So, but there is a national forest that surrounds it. That's really tough hunting. But that might be it too. So I'm not sure between the two of those places which I'm going to go. But that's my plans for archery season. Hopefully I get 2-3 hunts, 2-3 hunts in during that, either maybe like 1 good weekend or 2 good weekends. My schedule this fall is going to be, kind of crazy, with me, but let me just get this out of the way. So I'm starting these Amazon businesses, or Amazon business where I've got products coming in. I just listed the first thing. If anybody out there has chickens, I'm selling empty egg cartons on Amazon. So that's one thing. I got the hunting gear deals site, and then I got my day job. So between those things, like, my time's really tight. And the podcast, of course. So my schedule this fall, but I'm definitely going to make some time for hunting. It's just hard to know exactly what that's going to look like. With the whole Amazon thing, I got stuff coming in from China, and I'm resending it to Amazon, and it's time intensive in small sections, but when it needs to be that small section, there's like no messing around. So sorry, that's not hunting related, but I feel like that's pertinent to explaining what my schedule is going to look like and how I don't really know exactly what it's going to look like. Other than I've got some of these draws that are going to be like set in stone. So first hunt, I don't know yet. Our season opens September 15th-ish. I don't even know the exact day. I know this is going to be the weekend after that. So I'm pretty close to then sometime. I'm going to get at least a day hunt in. And I don't even have cameras up on my dad's place. Last year there was a nice 9-pointer that we were getting, and I put in a couple hunts for him, and he ended up disappearing, but he could be back. Unfortunately, I don't have the cameras up to know.
Mike, so last year I had a pregnant wife, and I didn't get to hunt as much as I would like, and I felt like you pressured me a lot. I just want you to know, no matter if you just set yourself up for a ton of excuses for not being able to hunt, it's on. Pressure coming, baby. It's going to be applied.
Good.
You're going to get text messages on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock and say, you better be in a tree stand. Like we're accountability partners.
Yeah. I'm definitely getting some hunts in. I just don't know about archery yet.
Yeah,
it's
cool.
going to be the beginning of the season is going to be tough. So next question.
So, well, okay, so we got over the early season. Where else are you going to hunt during the year, or is that the places that you will be hunting this year?
No, man, I got them lined up. So one good thing with hunting public land in Florida is there's a lot of small areas to hunt. But they're all like specific weekends where they're open. So I can't like pick like, oh, I got this weekend open, I'm gonna head over here. So with these draw hunts, it's like a specific weekend or specific week. So actually I take that back. I do have another archery hunt that I drew for. It's in a really good area and it's probably an hour and a half from Tampa Bay. So that's pretty nice. That's not till October though. So so even if my like September's not, even if I don't make it up north in September, I've got that hunt for sure in October. Then I've got another area up in North Florida where I drew the archery hunt and the gun hunt. I'm pretty excited about that. Most of these WMAs in Florida, once you get out of archery season, you can't hunt the does. It's just bucks only. Florida's got the laws where it's like $2 per day for the whole season. But on public land, most of the time you can't kill does. So I've got that hunt, and you can kill bucks or does in the archery or gun season. So that definitely gonna be looking to put some meat in the freezer. Then that's like November, December time frame. I've got like 3 weeks at the end of November, beginning of December. So I've got the first hunt is the archery hunt on that property I just told you about. Then I have the sandbar hunt, which is going to be like a 4-day hunt. I talked about that on the last episode. I'm really excited about doing that. That's the primitive hunt where you go spend the night on the island or spend the whole weekend on the island. So I got that. And then the next week I go back to that other place. So to be honest, 3 weeks in a row, I'm definitely doing the sandbar hunt. We'll see about the other two hunts if I'm able to make it the whole weekend. Maybe I just can make it for a day. But it's like a 4-hour drive from the house. So it's not really like, oh, I'm just going to go give it a shot for half a day. It's a pretty big commitment to go out there. So I got those. And then I also drew a muzzleloader hunt in February, which, probably my Florida listeners know, like if you got a muzzleloader hunt in February, it's a pretty good area. So I won't say specifically where it is, but it's not too hard to narrow down. And that's a pretty sweet hunt. So, man, I've got lots of opportunities, and then there's redraws all season. So I don't know exactly what they all are. I might pick up some other ones and swap some of the other ones back. You can send your permits back if you're not going to use them. So I always do that. I don't want to, hog up permits I'm not going to use. But I'm not going out of state. It's all going to be in state, mostly public. I did. I don't know if we're going to talk about this later on a separate episode, Adam. But I did some knocking on doors this last weekend, and I did get a maybe on a place about an hour from the house. And I'm going to keep doing that. This OnX challenge, I'm really pushing to try to find somewhere I can hunt with my kids this year. Public land is not. I mean, it's tough on my own, let alone try to bring my kids along. So I'm really trying to find some private land I can bring my kids.
That's cool, man. Yeah, I saw you post on that, I think on Facebook or something. So good luck on that property. You going to follow up with them, or how's that going to play out?
And and maybe I should have done, like, I gave the guy my information. He said he's going to talk to his wife about it, and he seemed like pretty open about it. But he just took my information. He didn't give me his or anything. So I'm kind of stuck. And it was like the dude was by the road. Like I said, the dude was standing by the road behind his gate. And I like stopped the car and went over to talk to him. Really nice guy, but it's not like I can like pull up to his house and check with him again. And it's an hour away too. So, I guess I'm just kind of at the mercy of him calling me back. I'm gonna try to get it, like, even though it's an hour away, that's probably about as close as I'm gonna get.
Did you mark the location?
I'm also working. What's that?
Did you mark the location?
I know where it's at.
I mean, just can't you like look him up online?
I mean, yeah, I could probably write him a letter.
Well, I'm saying like you could look him up through OnX, see his name, then Google, and find his phone number.
Yes, although the property is under his mom's name, but
that's challenging.
Deceased, but probably can figure it out. But I also I'm going to be looking for there is some like hog hunting areas I might be able to find closer. So I'm going to keep working at it. We'll see. I'm going to give it my best shot through the end of the month, and maybe even through the season. We'll see. The nice thing about hogs, you can hunt them year round, so I don't have to worry about hunting season if I can get access there.
So how are you planning on like attacking these different pieces of public land you drew tags on? Like what's your plan to like go in and hunt? Are you scouting these beforehand? Are you gonna hang and hunt, like run in there, hang and hunt, or climb, or what's the deal?
Yeah, so I definitely wanted to talk about this. This is what I'm doing this season is not ideal, but I think it is like a good real world situation for a lot of people. So I'm hoping I can be a good example of it. We'll see. Basically, especially with picking up these tags late, like I'm not able to, like I don't have all these areas scouted ahead of time. Some of them I've been to before, so I've got a good general idea. I know one of the hunts I've got a couple guys I've been chatting with that have like been scouting quite a bit, and they've been sending me trail cameras and all that kind of stuff. So as much as I'm willing, they're willing to like help, they'd be willing to like just stick me in a tree. And I'm like, man, I'm kind of torn about that because I don't have a ton of time to scout the area and I don't want to waste my time. But at the same time, I don't want to hunt somebody else's tree either, whether they're hunting it or not. So I've got to figure that out. But basically my goal is I want to be doing a lot of going in blind. And I'm sure we'll get into this a little bit, but I've got one of those saddles on order, but my idea is to be really mobile and to like scout my way in and hang and hunt right there. And my goal is, to find some good spots just like on the spot, looking at fresh sign and that kind of stuff, which is going to take some map study. But I think the biggest thing is just scouting until you're there and then stop. Like I know I can't go past where I'm going to be hunting because I don't want to mess it up with scent. So as soon as I hit the spot, then I need to hang and hunt it. That's my plan.
So when you do that, it's got to be afternoon hunts, right?
Yes. Yeah. Obviously I'm not going to be able to scout my way in the morning. And a lot of times if I'm hunting public land, what I like to do is I'll hunt the next morning, the same spot that I hunted the evening before. Which obviously, I'm a big believer in deer being able to scent, where you've been. So, if the deer are passing after I've already been in the stand, then I'm kind of ruining the chances of them passing again. But at the same time, if they went through that area during the middle of the night, then there's a good chance I wasn't going to see them at that, in the evening or the next morning anyway. So that's kind of my thought with, and some of it might be, especially once I get into gun season. I did a little bit of this last year. It's just still hunting in the morning. And by still hunting, I mean walking very, very slowly, with the gun in hand and working my way through. And I was definitely successful seeing some deer that way. Didn't have any shot opportunities at bucks or anything, but I'm kind of excited about trying that out as well.
Yeah, that's cool. I know a lot of guys who do that and have had some luck. So on y'all's little piece of property that y'all have to hunt, or are you doing any kind of habitat work on it, or do you have any plans to do anything before the season starts?
Yeah, we're going to try to get some food plots into, and here in Florida, we'll probably plant some oats and some type of brassicas probably in September, which is like after bow season starts. So that's not really ideal to be trying to hunt the property the same weekend we're putting food plots and stuff in. So, and there's a lot of projects that I want to get done there that we just hadn't. So I'm sitting on soil samples that I picked up last time I was up there. I need to get those sent in, and we'll put down some lime for sure. It's always super acidic there, and then and some fertilizer, and we'll throw some seed down, and we'll get something to grow for sure. It'll be good for late season. And the rest of my family, they're all gun hunters, so if I can get something green out there, that will really increase the chances in the late season of somebody be able to get something.
Yeah, definitely. That's cool.
Well, what other projects do you have to do to get ready before the season begins?
The biggest thing is I need to get my act together with this new bow I got. I need to get a new sight on it. And I certainly don't want to be doing that like the night before I'm hunting. Otherwise, I've got my bow from last year, so obviously I could just go with that. But I inherited a bow from my father-in-law, so I'm going to be hunting with that this year. I'm excited about upgrading from my 1990 model to something from the 2000s. So,
Did you say what was it? Did you say it was a PSE?
yeah, and honestly, I can't remember the name of my new bow. It's a PSE something Pro. Starts with an R. Man, I cannot remember it.
Something that sounds really flashy and intense, probably.
Yeah, something awesome. Yeah. So yeah, that's like the number one thing. And I was thinking I'd be getting, saddle ready. Haven't been able to do that yet. I know this is like a theme. We're not trying to bash on not getting those yet, but that's been kind of one of the focuses. So I need to get my act together. because I'm going to be focusing so much on scouting my way in and being to hang. So I need to get my system down for that. And I've got a couple cameras out. I mean, these areas where I'm talking about walking in, I'm hoping to not be completely blind. So I'm going to still be trying to put some, like the hunt I've got in February. I mean, really, I don't need to get cameras out in that area until at least like October. The rut there is in like late January, February term. So I've got a lot of work to do, but I can kind of do that through the season. So yeah.
You're doing some scouting right now too, though, right?
Yeah, just this last weekend. Well, one of the properties I tried to scout, and I brought the kids with me. And that, that's a huge aspect of it, is having 4 kids and, just there and tons of activities. So it's just tough to get away for, like, when you got to drive 3-4 hours to get to where you're going, it means it's like a whole weekend out. It's not like I'm going to go spend a morning doing it. So, but last weekend I was out of town with the kids. So I took them by one of these areas and we were going to scout it, and the deer flies were awful. I don't know if you guys have deer fly. Kyle, do you have deer flies? They're those biting flies. They look about the size of house flies.
Yeah. We've been dealing with those, and horse flies have been really bad this year, especially like July timeframe. And they were awful.
Yeah, yellow. Sometimes there'll be yellow, so they're yellow flies. But these things, they're like attracted to movement. So when you're walking, they just and I don't know why, but they go for the highest point. So they like swarm your head, and DEET doesn't help. Thermacell doesn't really help. And it's like a summer thing. So once once hunting season gets going, like in, late September, that time frame, usually they're mostly gone. But man, we got 50 yards from the truck and I was like, all right, we got to go back. Cause my kids were just, they're about to get torn up. So that scouting didn't go well. But the good thing is that same trip turned into a knocking on doors trip. So, and I guess that's the other thing I'm going to keep doing until season gets going is knocking on some more doors.
Yeah, man. I'll be ready for those cooler temperatures to get those bugs out of the way. And,
Yeah, I can't wait till it gets down to the 80s.
I'm tired of going out in the woods and sweating. And, speaking of some of those cold temperatures, y'all are going to be testing out some of that new Nomad whitetail gear this season, right? They're kind of cold weather stuff. Have y'all been able to put your hands on any of that yet?
That's a good question, Kyle. So we've been in talks with them, and they're having like kind of an inventory crisis, to be honest. So hope they don't mind us sharing that things are going to be tight this fall. So of course, their number one priority is making sure they got what they need for stores and all that kind of stuff. So I think they're running a little bit behind getting their stuff in. So the plan is to still get some and try it out. But the answer to your question is no, we have not gotten it yet.
I do actually have their cold weather stuff though from last year. They sent me some I think it's the Primaloft series and the Harvester series pants. So I can say that I've tested most of it. The only thing that I haven't tested would be their new set, which would be the Cottonwood series.
Yeah, which they got some improvements that are, we are definitely excited about checking out. So
yeah, so that's the one that I was really hoping to check out this year, because that'll take me through most of the season. I mean, it'll take me through like late into November, and then by that time I have to switch over to the Primaloft, get something a little bit more warmth in it.
Yeah, there's like a 1 week time frame in the South where you can wear your cold weather gear, and that's about it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. It gets pretty cold up here sometimes. I was I think like up in Kentucky last year, it was down to like 15. That's pretty stinking cold for me. Plus the wind.
Yeah, I mean, I was just joking. I mean, we had a weekend this past season in Mississippi where it didn't break freezing for like 5 or 6 days in a row. It was pretty brutal cold.
Yeah, y'all got quite a bit of snow.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that was in December, early December actually. Actually, where I live, on the Louisiana coast, Southwest Louisiana. I live like 8 miles from saltwater. We got almost 4 inches of snow here when we had that crazy cold front in December, if you can believe that. What'd I say? 4 inches of snow. Is that what I said?
Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is crazy.
That's more than we
It's
got,
insane.
actually. It happens.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was talking to some friends in the Midwest, and it was more than they got, like in the Midwest.
Dang.
I don't know what to do.
It killed a bunch of plants in my yard, if y'all care about that.
Yeah.
We
for
just
sure.
got landscaping this last year and we lost.
It's
Killed a
horrible.
bunch of stuff.
So,
Yeah.
Mike, what's your 2018 deer hunting goals?
Well, yeah, I guess one thing is I want to kill something going in blind. That could even probably be a hog, but I think it'd be cool just kind of like brand new spot, stand on my back, wait till I find some good sign and get something that way. And I want to get through the season with at least 2 deer in my freezer. So those are the main 2 goals. I don't really have like a size goal or a specific goal or anything like that. I know I'm going to be hunting a bunch of public, so that's you know, I think any deer on public land in Florida is a trophy in my mind. So of course, I'm going to be going after the biggest bucks I can find, and but at the same time, I'll be happy just filling the freezer. I got limits on myself for, well, actually Florida's got limits now, where they've got antler point restrictions. So I don't need to worry about shooting spikes or anything like that. So, most legal deer are going to be relatively mature. So yeah, that's, I'm hoping to get a couple deer, be happy to get a hog or something along to go with that. But, that's it.
And you wonder why I call you Mike the Hogman Higman. I think you've mentioned hogs like 5
man.
times. Just so you know, I'm throwing that out there.
That's because we got hogs down here, Adam. That's like, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess if that makes me hog man, I'll take it.
Don't wish that evil on anybody.
No.
Oh no, for sure. I don't at all. But if they're already there, I'll shoot when I need it.
Well, speaking of the hog, man, you have a really cool website, Hunting Gear Deals. What kind of gear are you testing out? Or are you implementing in your 2018 season?
Man, it's been so part 2 of my fall adventure this year with that whole Amazon deer deal is it's like pretty capital intensive. So even though I get deals on stuff, money's really tight with me right now. So, I got the saddle coming, and I already got the bow, so I need to get a new sight for that bow. So probably anything else gear wise is going to be related to that. I'm all set on arrows and broadheads and that kind of stuff. So, stuff always comes up during the season though. Some kind of new deal will come up, and I won't be able to pass it up on a good deal. So I'm always looking, but I don't have a ton specifically in mind. I guess the only thing is you mentioned boots earlier. I've got a set of lacrosse boots that have lasted me. They're snake boots, rubber boots. They've lasted me. I think I'm on probably year 6 or 7, and there's a ton of miles on them. So those things are about ready to be replaced. I use a product called Aqua Seal on them, which is awesome. They're so that it does a really good job of sealing up any holes in them. So I've had a couple of holes, but it's to the point now where I got like a whole side of the boot coated with that stuff. So those things are, when I find the right deal, those are going to get replaced. And then one other thing I just remembered, I love hunting off a bike on public land, because one thing, a lot of these areas, they have gates for vehicle access during the hunts, but they only open them during the weekend of the hunt. So if you want to scout ahead of time, you got to park your truck at the gate, and it might be several miles to get back to where you might even drive to and then walk after that. So that's a lot easier with a bicycle. And this last season, I hunted a lot on that family property, so I didn't need it so much. But I did have it in my truck at one point, and it got stolen. My bike did. So I got to replace my bike. I've been checking some pawn shops. I'm maybe checking Craigslist. I don't want to buy like a brand new, nice, $300-400 bike, to bang around on public land. But I guess while we're on the topic, I'll give like my quick what I look for in a bike. Hopefully that's helpful to somebody. So a couple things you need. One is don't just get a mountain bike if you can help it, because the suspension, especially in the rear, you lose like a ton of your pedaling power in that suspension. So for me, a lot of this, I'm either like riding the bike through water or like really soft, sugary sand. So it's tough if you're not getting like everything you got out of it. So that's one thing. Another thing is you need like a really low gear where you can pedal fast and move slow. Same deal with the water and the sand. So that would be just in case you're not a bike guy, which I'm not really. That's your rear gear set. So a lot of times there'll be like 7 different gears in the back, and there'll be the biggest one usually be a little bit bigger than the other ones. And then wide tires that don't have like big knobs on them. So you want real wide so they don't sink. Those are the main things I'm looking for. The bike style is called it'll be like either called a comfort or a hybrid or some comfort hybrid, something like that. But it's basically between a mountain bike and like a beach cruiser. Now there are those like new sweet like fat tire bikes. I have not ridden one of those yet. And I haven't gotten enough feedback to really know how good they are, because I think it's one of those things where if somebody spends like $800 on a bike, of course it's going to be the best thing you can buy. But I haven't really heard any complaints about them either. So that might be a good option too. But I'm in the market for a new bike. It's going to cost me probably, I don't know, 80 or $100, and then I'll end up putting another 20, $30 of parts in it. That's the plan there. I hope you guys didn't mind my bike talk there.
That's evergreen content,
very
man.
Informative.
Yeah, hopefully that's good for somebody.
I've always wanted to use a bike for mainly for turkey hunting. Just kind of cruise around like silently, covering some ground. Never done it though. May need to have to take the Mike Hogman method of bike hunting and find me something for this upcoming spring.
I've done a lot of riding bike on public land. What I have not done a lot of is dragging deer on the bike. So I've put some thought into what I would do, and I did have like one of those like kitty carriers at the house. That was kind of like one of my plans, but I've never really needed to put that into use yet. So I'm gonna have to get back to you on what to do. Really, my plan is like if I were to get something, just drag it. Even if I'm like a few miles back, a lot of times you're riding the bike on a road anyway. So if I can just drag the deer, if I can ride my bike there, I can drag a deer on it.
You just tie the legs like around your chest and wear it like a backpack.
Yeah.
Just full body, pull it out.
That's what a real man would do.
Or just quarter it up and fit it all in my day pack. Yeah.
Or that.
Yeah.
So you talked about like the bike, and you talked about the still hunting, and then you briefly mentioned the saddle. Like, do you have any other tactics that you like, new tactics you want to use this year, or what are you really going to be focusing on?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is like going in blind. I want to be able to look at a spot on a map, or some of it might even not have been like only looked at a map. Hopefully I'll be able, like what Adam mentioned earlier, have at least speed scouted through an area. I might not have my trees marked. I might not have beds marked. I might not have, hopefully I know, like if I'm speed scouting, I'm definitely marking food sources that I might see, which a lot, if it's like a white oak or a swamp chestnut, something I know, if it's an area that's got that stuff, I might even not know if specifically it's dropping until I set foot on it. Then I'm walking through the area, and if I hit one of those trees that I know is dropping and there's deer sign around, I'm probably hunting that area. And as far as bedding goes, I know like early season, you got to be close to bedding, but I think it's kind of what you talked about earlier. If I'm in like a thick area and there's like a food source close by, I already know I'm close to bedding already. So that's the biggest thing, man. I'm just going to try to like be extra mobile and like kind of in and out. Like a lot of these hunts I might only be able to do one day or something like that. So I just want to be effective like from the get. I'm not going to like scout my way, like start on the outside and hunt my way in or anything like that. I'm going to like try to get where the deer are on my first hunt and make it happen.
So none of us have really touched on this. So you're going to be hunting all day?
Time depending, yes. So
Yeah.
like I talked about earlier, a lot of the times, so what I might be doing is like, say, if I've got a set from the night before and I think it's got good potential, maybe I saw something, maybe I didn't. But anyway, it's like, I feel like that's my best option. I might be going back to the same spot and maybe only hunting, an hour and a half or something in the morning. Or maybe, who knows, maybe I'm hunting all morning. But then probably what I'm gonna be doing is getting down and scouting my way into the next spot and then hang and hunt. So would I be technically hunting? Yes, I would be hunting all day, but maybe not in the same tree. Now during the rut, if I've got like a good rut funnel or something like that, absolutely, I'll be in the same spot all day. And I guess to be determined on that with the saddle, because man, I love my climbing tree stand. So as far as like comfort goes. So, when it comes to the rut and all day sits, I might be hauling in the extra, 20 pounds, just to be able to sit in one spot the whole day. I don't see it as a situation where I'm going to like get rid of, everything I've done before because of the saddle. But I do see it as a situation. I just think it's perfect for what I'm talking about. Just like having everything in a backpack and I can walk until I find something.
Yeah, I love that sort of idea, versatility and like lightweight and minimalist sort of idea behind the saddle. I just don't like the part about me falling out of the tree to my death.
Yeah. Well, man, guys, I think we got through everything. We got the whole thing. This is not our shortest podcast ever, probably. My clock here is saying 2 hours. I know we chatted a little bit before we started, but we probably ought to wrap this up. Hopefully everybody found something that we're all doing interesting and hopefully learned something. And we can kind of, as we go through the season, talk about how we completely changed our plans from what we talked about ahead of time. But man, I'm excited. I don't know when the day is, but I cannot wait to get in the woods. I'm going to try to make it ASAP for sure.
Absolutely.
It was a lot of fun, guys. I hope everyone enjoyed this podcast, and we're out down south.
Out down south.
Out down south.